All right, so I think we're gonna get started. Everybody, thanks so much for joining us for Take a Break with Jake on this beautiful sunny day. We're out here at the Flamingo Lagoon. Kelsey's gonna give you a nice 360 view of where we are. The flamingos are not out right now. We actually have worked with our bird keepers. We have Megan all the way back there, and then Jen, we're gonna meet in a little bit. And they actually kept the flamingos in for a bit this morning, and then we're gonna actually see them all shift out just about now. So I think Jen and Megan, whenever y'all are ready, we can start the shifting process. So y'all can focus right back here and give them a second, but you can start hearing them. There's Megan back there with the door opening. We're gonna give the birds just a little bit of time to decide if they're ready to come out. And soon we should see our big pink friends making their way down the hillside.
We hear them before you see them every time.
Come! How exciting!
Jake, it seems like they're excited about the weather too, right?
I know, how incredible was that? All right, so we're gonna make our way over to meet Megan, Jen is with us today. Sorry, Jen. Jen is one of our bird keepers.
Hello.
She works a lot with the flamingos.
Yes.
So we're gonna make our way over to where the birds are now. And Jen, tell us a little bit about what you do here at the zoo as a bird keeper.
So I'm a bird keeper here, so I take care of a variety of species. I'm a primary for the flamingos, so I work with them every single day.
Wow.
Taking care of them, giving them food, checking them over, making sure that they're healthy, and cleaning up after them because they are pretty messy.
Definitely, awesome. So, okay, we are meeting Caribbean flamingos today. They're the ones that live on exhibit here at the zoo. How many Caribbean flamingos do we have here at the park?
We have 24 Caribbean flamingos.
Okay.
We have 11 females and 13 males.
Awesome. Now, how do you tell them apart? That's like everybody's question. Is
Right?
like, how could you possibly tell these birds apart?
It is really hard to tell one pink bird from another, so we actually cheat. We have these bands on their legs so that each one has their own number. So it's easy to tell who's who just from a real quick glance. You can tell number 1 from number 8 from number 32. Everybody's who's who.
That's super easy.
Yeah.
You just have to be able to like actually see the
Actually
numbers,
see the
right?
number. Sometimes their bands turn a little bit and you're like, I can only see one number, so you have to kind of get a good angle and see both.
Awesome. We're gonna move over here now so we can get real close to them. Jen, tell us what's your oldest bird and what's your youngest bird?
Yeah, so our birds range in ages from 11 to 23.
Okay.
11 to 23 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
So our youngest one hatched in 2009, and then our oldest one hatched in 1997.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How long can Caribbean flamingos live?
So these guys will live to be in their 20s to 30s in the wild, but they have lived up to 50 years in zoos. So by comparison, they're still pretty young. This is number 1, Bingo. He's our most curious bird out of everybody, so he's gonna come check out this new camera that he's never seen before and see what's happening.
Hi, Bingo. I bet you're
And
missing
he might
people.
bite it, because
That's fine.
That's how he explores things, is with his mouth.
Hi, Bingo. You're so excited to see your friend Jen.
Hi.
That's real cute.
You know we're up to something out here, don't you?
I can't even tell you, Jake, at this point how many species have bitten my phone.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty
A
unreal.
real special phone there.
Yeah.
So this bird is very tall. Like, how is this, like 4 feet tall?
Yeah, these guys can range between about 4 to 5 feet tall. I'm 5'1", and
Okay.
we have a couple really tall males in here that are about eye level with me.
I believe it.
When they're shifting in and out, so they might be even a little bit taller than 5 feet.
That's
but
crazy.
on average, like our smallest female is like right around 4 feet.
Okay. Wow. So they're big birds.
Yeah.
Very tall. So birds, as most people know, are pretty lightweight. They have relatively hollow bones so that they can fly really easily. How heavy do your flamingos weigh on average?
So our flamingos, our smallest one is close to about 6 pounds, just a little bit under, and then our biggest one is, I think Bingo is almost 11 pounds. So he's a little bit chunky. He's very bold, so he goes for the food right away. So he
Good
gets
for you, Bingo.
he gets a lot, and he's a big male. He's pretty tall, so he has a lot of muscle there.
There's a lot to him.
Yeah.
For sure. Do all of the birds have names?
No, not officially. He's the only one with an official name.
Okay.
Everybody else we kind of have nicknames for, but nothing official.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So we just mostly refer to them by their band number, so everybody in our department and throughout the zoo can know who they are. So we can just say number 8, number 64, and you can walk up and you know who that is.
Right, that's
without
handy.
having to know.
I've never really seen them go back into the bushes there. That's pretty cool.
They do like to go up in the top in the trees on the bark dust. And these used to be their old mounds where the bark dust is and stuff, so they kind of still hang out over there a lot. So we have a mud yard for them in the back now where they can build some mounds. And they've been playing around with it a little bit and building, but...
Let me go ahead. I'm going to have a photo. I'm going to show you guys of what that mud yard looks like. Let me make sure this is gonna pop up. Can you guys see that? So those two I don't know, flatter or more packed areas are their mounds.
That they've been working on. So we see some fresh mud being pulled up on there every single day, but not quite at the level that they would be if they were really seriously building and trying to breed. So we're not quite sure if they're just playing around and just getting the feel of it. This is their first year. So they really had a lot of access to it because they're normally out on exhibit. But actually with the pandemic, we left them inside for a little while so that they could have access to it 24 hours a day. And that really helped to get them motivated and started with their building. So it's a good natural behavior and a nice plus that came out of the pandemic for them. They got a little extra time for breeding behaviors.
That's handy.
Yeah.
So they're kind of just like playing house these days.
They
and
are.
they're just like playing around.
Yeah.
That's cute. Kelsey, Bingo is right below you and he's like over the excitement of us and now just wants to nap.
And
Which
now
I think
he's
is
gonna
so
take a
cute. But he must really like you, Kelsey, because he's napping right next to you.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
He's pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
what's not to like?
So cool. So Caribbean flamingos are quite a bit larger and a slightly different shade of pink than the Chilean flamingos that my department has. Can you tell us a little bit about the different kinds of flamingos that call to Earth their home?
Yeah, so there are 6 different species of flamingos. These guys are actually the brightest color of all the different species of flamingos. So they have that brightest pink, and they get that color from the food that they eat. So they eat a lot of shrimp and krill, and that has kerosene in it. The same thing that makes a carrot orange is what's in that krill that makes that pink. And so if they didn't get it, they'd be a really faded, really light, almost white color of pink. But since they get, we give these guys, I think, 250 grams of krill every day, and so they're getting a lot of that pink color, and their pellets that they get actually have some of that coloration in it too to help keep them fresh and bright.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Jen actually has some little samples of the food that the flamingos like to eat that she brought out with her today. So we'll show you all that because it's really cool. Flamingos are primarily filter feeders. When you saw Bingo's beak earlier, and if anybody else comes around, you'll notice that they don't have teeth because birds don't have teeth, but they have tiny ridges on the upper and lower mandibles that they use to help filter food out of the water. And Jen has the different kinds of food that we offer the flamingos here at the zoo.
Hi, buddy.
You can see she'll float these in the water for the birds, and then they'll come and pick the big pellets and then the little pellets, which are the sinking pellets, out of the water, much like they would tiny plants and animals out in the wild. And then
this is some of their krill.
Tasty. So I think this is what a lot of people think of when they talk about like flamingos being pink, is they'll be like, that's because they eat shrimp. And they don't eat shrimp like you or I do, but this is kind of the same idea. These are like tiny, tiny little shrimp that flamingos can eat, and that helps give them that color that Jen was mentioning earlier. And here Bingo is picking at a little bit of the krill. What do you think about that? He's like, I'm not sure I want an audience for my snacking. Can't blame him for that.
So you can see that he's doing the filter feeding behavior that Jake was talking about, where he's going to suck in a lot and then he's squishing the extra water out the sides of his bill. And he's going to just keep that yummy krill inside and eat that.
Tasty.
It's a yummy little snack. Is that good?
He's like, Kelsey, don't encroach on
I'm
my
sorry.
krill.
I know.
doesn't like to share. We're learning.
These guys do get a little territorial, so sometimes you'll hear them yelling at each other and stuff in the exhibit, and that's usually just them giving a bird a warning saying, you got a little too close to me right now.
We mentioned that there are 6 different species of flamingos in the world, and they're found on every continent except Antarctica and Australia. There are 3 species that call South America their home. The Caribbean flamingo is kind of more like North America-ish, like the Caribbean, obviously, and then this is the species that people can see in Florida if they move upwards to there. And then we have lesser and greater flamingos that call Europe, Africa, and Asia their homes. And they all kind of range in sizes and colors, but they're all generally pink. They have those long legs, the long neck, and they like to filter food out of the water. But Jen, can you tell us a little bit about the things that are threatening flamingo populations in the wild?
Yeah, so the biggest threats to these guys is pollution and habitat destruction. So they are filter feeders, so they eat everything in the water. So if the water is polluted, that's going to make them sick and be really toxic. And then people moving in and trying to build on their land is also a big problem for them because they don't have enough resources for breeding and for finding food.
Gotcha. Now, one of our keepers here at the zoo, Christy, actually went down to South America, I believe like 2 years ago now, to do work with the Andean and James and Chilean flamingos that live there. And she actually got to help out with a lot of banding, which is where they go catch the wild flamingos. They'll weigh them, collect a lot of data on them, put a band on them so that they can identify them in the future, and then look at the overall trends from year to year for the populations. And what she was learning is that, much like Jen's saying, pollution has a really, really detrimental effect on the wild populations of flamingos. And one of the things that I was reading is lithium mining is particularly really bad for South American flamingos. And basically, a lot of our cell phones and a lot of our other gadgets take lithium batteries, but to get the lithium, you have to mine. And those mines aren't just hurting flamingo populations. The kind of like stuff that comes out of the mines after digging down actually filters into the waterways and affects humans and a variety of other animal species. So the really easy way that you can help flamingos and other species, including humans, which is really important, is by not buying the latest gadgets as they come out. Like, keep your phone if it's still working, and then of course always recycle your lithium batteries as much as possible. So yeah, tell us a little bit more. You were telling me a while back that you were working on training the flamingos out here on exhibit to get them a little more used to having people around.
Yeah, so a lot of these guys were parent raised at the zoos that they came from, so they're kind of skittish around people. So anytime we would come onto exhibit to do any kind of maintenance or even just to try to shift them, they would all run to this far corner and try to get as far away from people as possible. So we really were working on some desensitization training just to get them really comfortable with a person being out there. So I brought them out some krill every time so that there was a treat. So being, 8 feet away from a person wasn't a negative thing, it was a positive thing. So they've definitely gotten a lot better at that. As you can see, they come right up closer now.
That's awesome.
So hopefully working on that. They do that inside as well. They're a little bit better about coming in. So we've kind of used that skill of them coming close to a person to try to work on. We're working on scale training them right now so that they can step on a scale voluntarily.
That's awesome.
Right now, for getting their weights for maintenance, we do it once a year. We do a big catch up, and every bird gets caught up and gets a physical exam and a West Nile booster. But it'd be nice to be able to check in on their weights in between times.
Yeah.
So they're getting better at it, but still a little skittish with a person standing near the scale. So we're still working on that, but they're doing a lot better with it.
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah.
Congratulations. That's so much work to like better their lives, which is really pretty awesome.
Yeah. Trying to make it low stress for them. So it's just they're getting treats while they're coming and stepping on the scale.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We take a second and talk about some physical features here because I've seen some comments come in wanting to know more about that.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing with this like backwards looking knee is actually their ankle, right?
Yes. So their knee is actually tucked up underneath their feathers. So their knee does not bend backwards, it bends normal. So that's their ankle, and then the rest of their bottom part of their leg is kind of equivalent to your foot, and they're just walking around on their tippy toes all the time. which is one of the reasons they like to pick up their leg. It gives better circulation in their legs, and if you were walking around on your tippy toes all the time, you'd want to take a break too. It also helps to keep their feet warm. Because their legs are so skinny, they don't get great blood flow up and down that long, skinny leg. So if they tuck that foot up against their body, they can use their body heat to keep their feet warm and their legs warm instead of having to have that blood pumping up and down as much.
Awesome. I saw a question earlier too about their feathers. I think you brought a couple. Can we take a look at those? So about how long are their feathers? And I guess that varies based on where they are on their body, right?
Yeah, so
I'm learning so much, Jake.
They've got some tail feathers that are pretty long, and then they've got some, like their neck feathers are obviously very small and very short. So it kind of depends on where on the body they are. And then you can kind of see, like, when you see 77 over there preening, you can see that black on his wing. That's a little surprise. They all have that black feather on their wing, and it's a lot stiffer, and that's actually what they use to fly.
Can I touch it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot stiffer than it.
I wasn't expecting that, Jake.
This is like their tail feather, or possibly a wing feather. I'm not sure where this one came from. But you can tell it's a lot more pliable. It bends a lot easier, and then this one is a lot stiffer. It doesn't quite bend anywhere near the same. So that's how you can tell this is a flight feather, because they're going to use that to push against the air to take off. And then this is gonna just kind of keep them warm and stuff. So these guys could fly in the wild, but they're all pinioned. So that means when they were chicks, one of their wings was removed. So they can't fly here, which is why we don't have to have this netted or anything. We don't have to worry about them flying out of the exhibit.
And that's a really common practice in zoos, especially for flamingos. In the wild, they primarily fly to find new food sources, so they move from like one really large body of water to the next. Here, they don't have to go anywhere to find food because Jen and the other keepers always have it present for them. They also don't have to worry about predators, which means that they don't need to use their wings to get away. So they're not really missing out on much. They are pretty happy to stand on the ground. And for the most part, flamingos, based on the research that I've done, kind of sit and walk around all day long, and then will sometimes fly overnight to a new food source, but they're not really like flapping around like a robin or a sparrow outside your house, right, Jen?
Yeah, they don't do long migrations or anything either. They do fly, like you said, to like a new food source or to get away from a predator, but not really so much to go because of temperatures, which is why a lot of birds migrate. They go south for the winter, so they're in a warmer climate. These guys stay in a pretty tropical climate most of the year, so they don't have to travel for that. So they just travel for food. So since these guys are fed as much as they want 24 hours a day, they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and I think that's on it. You brought up another good point. Like, Caribbean flamingos definitely live in a tropical environment, but there are many other species of flamingos that live in much more like harsh or like uninviting environments. So your lesser flamingos over on the continent of Africa can be found well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit out on these salt flats. It's really gross. And then Chilean flamingos and a couple other South American flamingo species can be found down near freezing temperatures up high in the mountains. And Jen, your birds here are pretty hardy, right? They're pretty used to a variety of temperatures and climates.
Yeah. These guys are really weather tolerant, so they're really good about being able to be out when it's a little bit colder and staying out when it's warmer. So like I said, they can use their body heat to kind of keep their feet warm, so they're a little more tolerant of colder temperatures because of that. They don't have to worry about their extremities getting too cold. And then when it's warm, they have this nice pool that they can come and cool off in and swim around and splash around and cool themselves off anytime they want. So
if I didn't know how much flamingos poop and how gross they were, I would 100% want to swim in this pool every day.
This pool is actually really refreshing. On summer days, I've gone out in my shorts with my water shoes on to clean out the filters that we have in here, and it's so refreshing in the morning when it's already hot.
You just have to not think about the amount of poop that goes in.
I wouldn't stick my head in it, but to stick my feet in it is pretty nice.
That's awesome. Yeah.
We don't recommend that to visitors, just to be clear.
Yeah, they do poop in there a lot, and even though we do clean it and we have filters going and stuff, it is still not the cleanest water that you would want to play in.
All right, well, I think we're going to wrap up our wonderful Instagram Live. Jen, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wealth of knowledge. Like we mentioned earlier, you can visit shop.nashvillezoo.org to buy different kinds of gift shop stuff to help us out during the pandemic. We'll open as soon as we can, and Kelsey, our amazing marketing person behind the camera, is going to post that information as soon as we have it. I promise we're not keeping you in the dark. As soon as we know we can open, we will let you all know. But thanks for supporting us during this time and joining us for Take a Break with Jake, and we'll see you next week for some more fun adventures around the zoo.